Muted? Are we muted?
I'll mute us.
I think I'm muted. Shay, are you okay if I get started?
No problem. I'm ready.
Okay, wonderful. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Sorry, my Zoom just switched off. There we go. Thank you so much for being here this morning. Good morning to everybody in the US. Good evening to Shay. Not everybody in the US, but everybody I think that's on. And good evening to Shay in Israel. Thank you all for joining us for this year's first Israel Café Live from Israel in our year-long series with our returning virtual shaliach, Shay Rubinstein. My name is Shauna Levy. I'm the Director of Community Engagement for the Jewish Federation of Howard County. For those of you who aren't familiar, the Jewish Federation of Howard County provides financial and emotional support to individuals through social service initiatives, enriches Jewish life through innovative programming, and builds collaborative partnerships that foster a strong sense of Jewish community and strengthen ties within the broader local community. Thank you to the Federation's generous donors like you who make programs like Israel Café and our entire Shlichut program possible. I want to take a minute to give a special welcome to those of you who are new to the Howard County community and who are new to Federation's events. Welcome to everybody, but especially thank you for trying us out today if you're new. Just a little bit of Zoom etiquette before we get started. While Shay is speaking, please keep your microphone on mute. And if you don't, I will probably mute you. Please don't think that that's rude, but I do have the power, so I'll take it. I can't mute my kids, so this is a good alternative. But feel free to unmute yourself to ask questions. Shay is used to being interrupted on Israel Cafes. This is a discussion when you have questions, and he'll, sometimes Shay will just say he'll get to it in a minute. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Shay, and we will explore Israel through his eyes.
Thank you, Shauna. So once again, Boker Tov, good morning to all of you. I'm very excited to see you. It's been a while. I hope you had a great summer. And here in Israel, we had a very, very good summer. And I thought that for this first session of Israel Café for this year, it's a great opportunity to be live from downtown Tel Aviv. Before we begin, I want to thank Shauna and the Federation staff for this amazing opportunity to continue to serve the community. To thank you all for your support and trust. I know it's my 4th year working for the Federation, and it's a pleasure. I miss you all, and bringing Israel to you even during challenging circumstances, it's a great pleasure, and I'm happy to do that. And I look forward to seeing you monthly at Israel Café. As Shauna said, we're beginning today. And we're going to have a special session on September 14th, which is a Wednesday, 2 weeks from now. So I hope to see you then as well. So today we're in downtown Tel Aviv, live from downtown Tel Aviv. I'm streaming live to you from my cell phone. So as you can see, we're in downtown Tel Aviv. And let me ask you a question. Who knows where I am? You can raise your hand or unmute yourselves. Take a guess where I am in downtown Tel Aviv. See that everybody is shy. Guys, don't be shy from shy. Let's see, I see that Judy is raising hand.
Do you want me to say?
Yeah, where I am.
Rabin Square?
Exactly, so we're at the very heart of Tel Aviv, at the Rabin Square, which is the largest square in Tel Aviv. It's not in Israel. And this place is very special on multiple reasons. First of all, it's a um, very political square. Most of the major demonstrations in Israel take place here almost every week. On a weekly occasion, you can find here demonstrations, political demonstrations, and many political rallies as well. Some of the most important political events of Israel took place here. We're going to talk about that later. And this is also a very special place for locals. As you can see, there are many kids and teens walking down the street. Many people are enjoying the early evening weather. It's not that hot today, fortunately. You know, I was preparing to sweat here with 75% of humidity, but today it's 80 degrees, 60% humidity, so it's quite fine for me. And this place is also, the Rabin Square is also very special for me personally, because I grew up in this part of Tel Aviv. So I'm going to take you to the street where I grew up, and to show you a little bit of this area in downtown Tel Aviv. And as Judy said, the Rabin Square is located at the heart of Tel Aviv. We're now facing north. Let me flip my camera. We're now facing north. That's the City Hall building of Tel Aviv. This building is very special due to the fact that it's one of the largest ever built brutalistic style buildings. So back in the 50s, when Israel was a young country with a very strong communist influence and a very strong influence from Eastern Europe, and Israel had no money. So they were kind of copying or adopting the brutalistic style, which, as you can see, it's a massive building, and that's the style of most of the buildings in Israel, which were built from the 50s to the 70s. So this is the building of the city hall of Tel Aviv, the municipality, and it was built in the early 70s. I'm not a big fan of this building. I think it's a bit ugly. However, it looks much better than it used to be. This building facade was renovated recently, and I hope I can show you to that later. Every evening, the building is lighted with different colors and lights. And if there is a special occasion like national pride events, so the building is colored with the Israeli flag. If the city of Tel Aviv wants to show solidarity to other nations or to other cities, they light this building with foreign flags. For instance, a few days ago, due to the terror attack in Afghanistan, the building was lighted by the flag of the United States. And even a year ago, due to the Beirut port explosion, where hundreds of Lebanese people were killed, that building was lighted up with the Lebanese flag. So this is a place where Tel Aviv wants to show solidarity, and I think it's very meaningful and special. Now we're moving eastward. This is the main street of Tel Aviv, called Ibn Gavirol Street, named after Ibn Gavirol, a medieval Jewish poet who used to live in Spain. And this is the main street of Tel Aviv, beginning from the south to north. And this is where we're going to have a subway train in 6 years. Believe it or not, but according to the planning, Tel Aviv, sorry, is going to have 3 different lines of subway, one starting next year in 2022. And this line, the green line, is going to be built right beneath us, and is about to be operated starting in 2027. Fingers crossed. You know, don't build on Israeli planning, right? So we're now moving southward. Before I'll take you to my house where I grew up, I want to show you this building. Judy, do you recognize this building? this memorial? Anyone who recognizes this memorial?
That Rabin Square?
It's a Rabin Square, but this is a special memorial, not for Yitzhak Rabin. It's a different one. So this memorial is dedicated for all the victims of the Holocaust, of the Shoah, and was built in the mid-70s by a very famous Israeli sculptor called Yigal Tomarkin, who has recently passed away. He's very famous and well-known in Israel, and you can see this opposite pyramid shaped memorial, and it was renovated recently, and I think it's very symbolic, and it's a bit controversial in Israel. You know, some people don't like that. What I do like is you know, the fact that the Jewish star is missing. You know, you see only triangle and not the Jewish star, and I think that is one of why Yigal Tomarkin decided to do that. Now here you can see a COVID vaccination testing facility in downtown Tel Aviv. Anyone who wants to take a COVID test could come here for free and take a COVID test. So here it is. And we're now walking back eastward. I want to show you.
Shay, it looks like you're muted.
Oh, thank you. This is the new Eco Garden in downtown Tel Aviv. It's beautiful and it has water lilies and fish, and it's a very nice white and green place in downtown Tel Aviv, as you can see here. It's very nice, and many Israelis like to sit here and to rest. It was added to Rabin Square approximately 10 years ago. So you can have a feeling and a sense of how it is like. You can see people from all ages sitting and resting and trying, you know, to relax. And I think it's a very nice public space in the downtown area. So this is once again Ibn Gabirol Street. We're now facing southward. Over there is one of the best shawarmas in Israel called Dabush. So I guess it's next time you come to Tel Aviv, you want to have a good Israeli shawarma. So this is one of the best options in town. However, it's a bit expensive. But this is Dabush. Over there, it's South Avenue of the Gold Street. Very popular for restaurants and getting out. And now we're going back to talk to the north part of the square to talk a little bit about politics. So before we do so, I want to check if you guys have any questions or comments. Please unmute yourself because I can't see you raising hands. So if somebody wants to ask a question or to make a comment, we're very welcome to do that now.
There's one on the chat actually, Shay, that I'm going to read aloud to you.
Thanks.
Is there a significance to the design of the square?
So there is a significance because when Tel Aviv was built, this place where the square was an orange orchard. You know, there were here a lot of orange trees, and it was a very agricultural place. And the surrounding buildings were built before the square was built, so they had no choice. You know, they had to design it and to plan it in a square shape. And this is one of the few square shaped squares in Israel, because most of the square in Israel are circle square, you know, like Ikara Medina in Tel Aviv, which is another major square. And the design itself wanted, you know, to open the city hall for the public. Normally there are fountains here, and it's a very public space. There is also another important element in this square is that the fact that it's one of the few, open spaces in downtown Tel Aviv, and this is where many festivals and special events are taking place. For instance, the annual book club festival in Israel, in Hebrew we call it Shavua Sefer HaIvri. It's a week-long festival of empowering Jewish and Israeli literature. So it takes place here annually. It's a very special event. Getting back to the square.
Shy. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
and in addition to just the square in general, there's a question about if there's a significance to the design that is on the pavement.
Not that I'm aware of. Actually, the city of Tel Aviv is planning to renovate the square and the pavement, and they want to make it even more open for the public. They're planning to create here more shade areas. So as far as I know, there's no significant meaning for that.
Shai, this is Hal. I'm surprised looking at City Hall not to see more security.
So there is some security. I'll show you when we get there. But we're currently like 300 feet from the building, so there's no security. But if I take these stairs up, I cannot enter the building. You have to go there where I'm pointing at, and you have to go through security check, and then, you can enter the building. So there is security, but it's not that tightened. And I guess they know what they're doing. This is actually, all the cars there belong to the municipality. That car, for instance, that parking where I'm pointing at, this is the parking of the mayor of Tel Aviv, Ron Hulday. And I know that because it's just written there, reserved for the mayor. So I guess that there are not that security threats, major threats. And I hope that they know what they're doing, but there is no this place is not super secured. Any more questions before we continue to the political part? All right. So what I want to show you is that every demonstration that takes place here, any political demonstration that takes place here at the Rabin Square, sometimes leave something. So for instance, this sticker is from a right-wing demonstration. You can see here the face of the new Israeli Prime Minister, Naftali Bennett, and it's written, "Bennett, you lied," or "Bennett, the liar." So this is an evidence from a political demonstration, a right-wing political demonstration against the new Israeli government headed by Bennett, and they call him liar because he publicly announced and cited a declaration that he will never join a left-wing or a central left-wing government that combines Arab parties. So I think that that's why they call him a liar. And as I said before, every week there is a political demonstration here at the Rabin Square. This is probably, if you want to see live a demonstration in Israel, that's probably the best places to be. By the way, this square, the most attended ever Israeli political demonstration took place here at the Rabin Square in 1982 against the Lebanon war. It happened. More than 500,000 Israelis attended the most attended demonstration in the history of Israel. So that's why this square is super significant in terms of politics. And that the name of that demonstration is the 400,000 demonstration. So almost 500,000 Israelis were participating in that demonstration. Imagine yourself, that at that time in 1982, there were only 3.5 million Israelis, so almost every fourth or third citizen participated in that demonstration. So this is very interesting, to think about it. Now, as for COVID, as you can see, they're putting X's on the floor, so people will know where to stand. They're using these signs and X's to point and to help people demonstrate while maintaining social distancing. So this is another interesting thing that you can see here nowadays. You can see there's another X here. Now, this square also hosted political rallies. One of the famous ones was a Labor Party political rally, which took place before the 1981 general elections. And this is probably the most famous and well-known political rally in Israel, in the history of Israel, because this is what turned the elections against Labor and in favor of Likud. This demonstration, the Labor Party representatives were a bit racist against Israeli Mizrahi Jews, and as a result, most of the Israeli Mizrahi Jews were voting for Likud, and the Labor lost the elections in 1981. Now, the same thing, almost the exact same thing happened in 2015 at this place exactly, when during a left-wing party against Netanyahu, 2 weeks before the 2015 elections, a very famous Israeli poet called Yoram Garboz was saying that all of those who kiss mezuzahs should vote for Netanyahu, and many religious and traditional Israelis were insulted by that, and it really helped Netanyahu to gain possession. So it's funny to think about it, but this square sometimes could create political turnovers, like in 2015 and 1981. Now we're going to walk northwards. Before that, I want to let you know that the original name of the Rabin Square is Kikar Malchei Israel, the Kings of Israel's Square. Now, this was changed after Rabin was assassinated on November 4th, 1995. Rabin stood up there where I'm pointing out. Let me flip my camera. Rabin was standing there giving his last speech with Shimon Peres and other elected officials from the Labor Party. Rabin was standing there, and he was moving there, taking the stairs, and then he was shot. So I'm going to take you to the place where Rabin was shot at, when Rabin was shot, and I will mute myself because it's a bit noisy here. So I'll be right back.
Shai, when you come back, I'm wondering if the political parties at the municipal level are the same array of political parties at the national level.
So the answer is yes and no. There is Labor Party in the municipal level, and there is a Likud Party and Meretz and Israel Beitenu. So some of them do exist on the municipal level. However, many municipal politicians establish their own parties. For instance, the mayor of Tel Aviv, Ron Huldai, who is the longest sitting mayor of Tel Aviv in history, he's in power since 1998. 23 years in power. He used to be a Labor member, a Labor Party member, and after 5 years in power, he decided to establish his own party called Tel Aviv Achat, Tel Aviv One, or Tel Aviv Unified. And he decided to do that because he didn't want to rely on the Labor Party infrastructure. He wanted to be more independent. And as a result, many Israeli mayors and police and municipal leaders decided to follow that. So I think it's a combination between mayors who belong to a certain party and establish their own versus mayors and other local elected officials who belong to the historical parties like Likud, Israel Beitenu, Labor, and so on. Hal, back to you. This is the security, facility at the entrance of the city hall. You can see that there is an X-ray scanning machine and two guards, but you can see that they're smartphones and they're not that busy. Now back to Rabin Square. Today is the first day of school, back to school day in Israel. So here it's written to all of the students in Tel Aviv, good luck, בהצלחה. So as you can see, here it is. Now I want to take you to the exact place of where Rabin was assassinated. First of all, here is a memorial for Yitzhak Rabin. This sculpture represents almost the exact spot where Rabin was shot. Sorry. So here is where Rabin was shot. And as you can see, there is an exhibit here that revolves around the annual Memorial Day for the assassination of Yitzhak Rabin from 1995 to 2020. And it's written here exactly on this spot. The unreal thing happened, and our heart doesn't believe in what happened. The Prime Minister of Israel was assassinated by a Jewish extremist. So here it is, and you can see here exactly. This plate really shows exactly how Rabin was shot at. Number one, you see here the number one, the digit one. So this is Yitzhak Rabin that represents Rabin. You see here the Prime Minister, and you see here the his guardians, and you can see number 10, the Jewish extremists who assassinated Rabin and shot him. So this is exactly, now we're going to I'm going to show you exactly, this is exactly where I'm pointing at. It's exactly where Rabin was standing. And this is exactly where Yigal Amir, the Jewish extremist who shot Yitzhak Rabin. So look how close he was able to get to the Prime Minister of Israel. I think it's a shame for the Israeli FBI, the Shin Bet. And I think that this location is one of the most influential locations in the history of the state of Israel. As you know, the Rabin assassination and the following elections, followed by the first Netanyahu government, stopped and halt the Oslo Accord process, and it changed the history of the state of Israel forever. Now, as you can see, I'll show you again the path of Rabin that Rabin took. He was walking down the stairs here from after he gave his final speech in the rally. He was walking down the stairs, and here is where the killer came, and Rabin was there, the killer was here, and the rest is history, unfortunately. Now here, this is the exact wall that remained after the assassination. This is a graffiti and and demonstration wall that people did here spontaneously, and it's written here, sorry, slicha, we apologize. And it's written here, in this place, the Prime Minister of Israel was assassinated, was murdered in the struggle for peace. As you can see, it's written in English, Hebrew, and Arabic. And this wall is the exact wall where after people, were writing here exactly what they think, and they express their feelings after this terrible assassination. For instance, the legacy of Yitzhak Rabin will always be alive. Or another one, peace. You see here the Jewish star. So this is exactly the same wall that remained just days after the assassination, and they decided to cover it and to keep it as it was. Somebody wrote here, I apologize, Mr. Prime Minister. We apologize that we didn't believe that someone could assassinate you, and it's very it's very touching. I think here it's written, will there ever be a fight for peace, or will they disappear? Somebody wrote here Black Shabbat. So it's very interesting, here it's written Shalom Chaver, goodbye friend, the word of President Clinton, the words of President Clinton from Rabin's funeral. And here it's written Chaver, friend, Ani Zocher, I remember. So here it is. This is a very significant historical place for the people of Israel, for the people of Tel Aviv. And as you can see, it's the city of Tel Aviv is trying to maintain it in a good position, to mark his legacy and to make sure that everybody recognizes this place. So there is another memorial. You can see the flag of Israel, the flag of Tel Aviv, and the seal of the city of Tel Aviv. So let me read it to you. Here at this spot, Saturday, November 4th, 1995, Prime Minister and Minister of Defense Rabin was murdered. This shall be his legacy. Amen. So until this day, many Israelis remember Rabin and his legacy and his courage to move for peace. And unfortunately, that process was stopped due to the assassination and the loss of Shimon Peres to Benjamin Netanyahu in the 1996 elections. So before we continue our tour, I would like to take some questions or to let you make comments. Guys, any questions, comments? I cannot read the chat, so Shona, if there is a message, you can read that to me, it would be great.
I'm watching it, Shay, and no one has put anything in the chat, but I think that
Great.
someone has just unmuted.
Can we see what happens when you start running toward that guard?
No.
Well, he was just looking, and then he went away. So I even wasn't looking, So I'm at the backside of the city hall. So I guess that you guys want to see some action, right? So this story is a bit boring for you. It's too much history. So let me try to provide action and entertain you. So now we're walking westward.
Shay,
what
this is
time is
Calvin.
it where you are?
I have
again?
a question about COVID. So I thought that Israel had done a really good job with vaccinations, but over the last couple of months, the number of COVID cases in Israel is pretty high. So do you know why that's happened?
So that's a great question, my friend, and thank you for asking that. We'll have a special session about COVID in Israel and the recent outbreak. So let's focus today on the tour because it's getting dark, and I want you to, feel the impression of the city and to take advantage of our time and the light. And let me flip my camera. But just to let you know, Israel is also beginning the booster shots. Israel began the booster vaccination last month, and more than 26% of the Israeli population is vaccinated for the third time. Me, myself, I'm going to take the booster vaccination on Friday, so I'm very happy about it. But I think it's a great question and it's a great topic. And let's talk about it at our next session on September 14th, 2 weeks from now. So thank you for that. I think that someone else had a question. Any questions before I continue? So we are now walking westward. We're on the Ben Gurion Boulevard, the Road Ben Gurion. I think it's one of the most beautiful boulevards in Tel Aviv. Look how many people are walking down the street and having fun and riding scooters and bikes. This is a very nice street, one of my favorites in Tel Aviv. The original name of this boulevard used to be JF, JNF Boulevard, Jewish National Fund, Kakal. However, after Ben Gurion's death in 1973, the name was replaced to Ben Gurion because this is where he lives. He lived on the west part he used to live on the west part of the boulevard. It's too far to walk, but eventually the city of Tel Aviv decided to change the name of the street and they changed it to Ben Gurion. So it's Sderot Ben Gurion Boulevard. And the street where I live today in northern Tel Aviv is called JNF Boulevard. So they just replace it with David Ben Gurion. So this is a very nice location in the downtown area. Now, I want also to point out and show this place. This is a very nice, let me show you, residential complex with a shopping mall, an open air shopping mall in downtown Tel Aviv. It's called Gan Ha'ir City Garden. Now, this place was built in the early 80s, and before it was built, the municipal zoo of Tel Aviv was located here. So, imagine that behind the City Hall of Baltimore or behind the City of the City Hall of Washington, D.C. or New York City, there is a zoo. So this is exactly was the situation in Tel Aviv till the 80s. I still remember that my grandma used to describe me how it looked like. So this exact spot was the zoo of Tel Aviv, and it was relocated to Ramat Gan and East Tel Aviv. So it doesn't exist anymore. And there is a very nice garden, a residential building, and an outdoor shopping mall. We're now walking southward. So this is one of where I'm pointing at, one of the best bars or pubs in Tel Aviv, very popular. Many people like to sit here and have fun, and to have a happy hour drink after working. So this is one of my favorite bars in town, and it's very nice. Let's see if we can cross the street.
Shay, we have a question.
Yeah.
How extensive are the bicycle lanes is the question from Richard Jaffe.
How expensive?
Extensive, like are there a lot and that, yeah.
Yeah, so as you can see, there are many scooters. This is a Lime scooter and many bikes. So the bike lanes are very busy in Tel Aviv, thanks to the fact that most Tel Aviv residents don't own a car. So look how many scooters and bikes are being used. So Lime, which is a U.S. scooter rent brand, has made Aliyah 3 years ago, and since then it's they have a great reputation and great success in Israel. It's very popular here in Tel Aviv. I must say that it's not that cheap. I think it's even more expensive than the price in the States. and it's very popular. You see that people are riding scooters and bikes and biking. Me myself, I'm biking sometimes, and it's really nice. In summer, it's a bit too humid and hot for me, but in winter, during winter time, I think it's perfect. Let's cross the street here. I want to show you some of the bars and the scene of early evening nightlife in Tel Aviv. So we have one bar there. We have another restaurant here, very nice one. As you can see, people are having fun, going out. All restaurants are fully open in Israel, and since then they're uh, compensating for the loss of guests and customers during the lockdown. So as you can see, many people are out having fun. I think that the nightlife and the culinary scene of in Tel Aviv is just great. There's nothing like it, especially in Howard County without offending anyone. Uh, and this is a great coffee store, which is located in a bookstore. So it's like Kramer's book in Washington D.C. in Dupont Circle. There is one of the best pizzerias in town. You can see anywhere you go, you have a great restaurant and you have a great culinary option. So I'm going to show you one of my favorite restaurants in town called Café Hanoi, which is a Vietnamese restaurant, kosher by the way, for those of you who observe kashrut. So it's a very popular Vietnamese cuisine restaurant. I'm now getting hungry. And now we're walking southward. Before we continue the tour, let me tell you that this boulevard is called Malchei Israel, Kings of Israel, and this boulevard is named after the previous name of the Rabin Square. And before, as I said before Rabin was assassinated, the whole square was called Kikar Malchei Israel, Kings of Israel Square. After the Rabin assassination, they just named this short boulevard Malchei Israel. Let me show you that. Malchei Israel, Kings of Israel. And we're now crossing Frishman Street, which connects Rabin Square to the beachfront area. Let's go this way. So Kelvin, before we continue, this spot is for you. This is a vaccination center here in downtown Tel Aviv. So the other side where I was pointing at before is a testing center. This is a vaccination center, and I'll focus on that at next Israel Cafe session. So now we're crossing the Frishman Street, and there is another very good Italian restaurant called Gusto. Very nice one. By the way, look how many available scooters you can find here. You see? So many, I guess 3 dozen of scooters.
Shay, do you ever use a scooter to get around?
No, I don't like scooters because they're not that cheap. And I feel unsafe a little bit. So many crazy Israeli drivers. When I drive, in the States, in most cases, I'm the only crazy Israeli driver. But here there are too many, right? So I'm just afraid. So I'm biking. I came here by bus. so sometimes I use the public transportation, and sometimes I drive. But when I go downtown, when I'm going downtown, I try to either get a ride from friends or bike or use public transportation.
There's one question in the chat, Shai. Does
Yeah.
Tel Aviv have any Michelin star rated restaurants? Would you know that?
Wow, that's a great question. I'm not sure. I think that Tel Aviv has many great restaurants, but I'm not sure. I don't know. I can check that. But speaking of Michelin rated restaurant, this is Meat Bar restaurant, one of my favorites in town, and it's very good. I smell the steaks and all what they're cooking, and I'm getting hungry. So I'll soon leave. Just kidding. So now we're crossing towards the west and walking on Chen Boulevard, Shderot Chen. This street is named after Chaim Nachman Bialik, who is the national poet of Israel. So Chaim Nachman Bialik was born in Eastern Europe and wrote many famous folklore and Zionistic songs and poets. So this boulevard is decorated for him. Now the thing is that there is a Bialik street in Tel Aviv. So I think that Bialik is the only person in Israel who has two streets named after him in one city. In Tel Aviv, we have Bialik Street, which is located next to Carmel Market, Shuk Carmel, and we have Chen Boulevard, which is named after his first name and middle name. So Chaim Nachman. So that was his first and second, and middle name. It's named after poet Bialik. And Chen means also cheshbon nefesh, what we do before Yom Kippur, cheshbon nefesh, thinking and regretting and thinking about our behavior during the past year. So this is cheshbon nefesh. So I think it's something a bit symbolic because we're entering the holiday season. Now I want to show you that where I grew up in this on this exact in this exact spot. This is my house where I grew up. It's the second floor where I'm pointing at. So I was born and raised in this corner, on this spot. I think it's the best spot in town. Look, it's a 5-story building. It's a very nice one. I have so many great memories from here. So here it is. I remember myself walking
Shai, does your
down
mom,
the
is this where
street.
your mom still lives?
No, so my mom lives in northern Tel Aviv. Here, there is no parking available, only street parking, and it sucks really. It's very difficult and very it's a nightmare to find a parking here. So my mom decided after my younger brother was born that she had enough of it, and she had enough of looking for parking and paying for to rent a parking, and we moved to northern Tel Aviv. But my mom still owns this apartment, so one day I hope to take advantage of this location and move down here. I think it's a great location, and it's a very nice street. So we're now walking south. Let's cross the street. So you see more scooters and bikes.
There's a question about the scooters and bikes, one more. Do they stay unlocked and you, like in the States where you unlock them with your phone, or is it a trust system?
That's the exact same thing. So, it was funny because when I came back from the States to Tel Aviv, I opened my Lime app, not on purpose, accidentally, and I saw so many Limes and Limes scooters, so it was funny. So now I'm walking to show you the Canadian embassy in Israel. And look how many dogs you can see here. There is, I guess that there are almost half the number of dogs of the number of people in Tel Aviv, meaning that in Tel Aviv, there are almost half million citizens. I guess that there are almost 200,000 dogs. Really, many people adopt or own a dog. It's very popular. So this is the Canadian embassy in Israel. Just to let you know, a very interesting thing about Israel is that most countries don't recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital for political reasons. And therefore, many embassies are located in Tel Aviv. Actually, most embassies, except for the US and 10 other countries, most embassies are located either in Tel Aviv or Ramat Gan or Herzliya. So it's because of political tensions in Jerusalem and the fact that many nations do not recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital.
Shy, we've lost your video feed.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Thanks.
So now I want to show you the main street of Tel Aviv, Ibn Gabirol Street. Let me show you. Oh, here it is. So we're now crossing, let me flip my camera. We're now crossing Ibn Gabirol. It's a beautiful street, the main street of Tel Aviv. Here, the green line of the developed subway system will pass. And as you can see, there is another bike path. So this street has some great restaurants and great cafes. One of them is Breton, which is a French creperie. They make crepes like in France, Breton, see? The special thing is not that some of them are savory, some of them are with dairy or fish or meat, so they're very special. So it's a very special place. There is another place here on the other side called Herzog, which is all vegan. So I don't know if you're aware of that, but Tel Aviv is the friendliest city in the world for vegan people. I feel sorry about it because I'm a carnivore. I love meat and burgers and other stuff. So I feel sorry about it as a big fan of burgers and steaks. But Tel Aviv is very friendly for vegan and vegetarian people, and I think it's great. Speaking of burgers, I want to show you two of my best, my favorite burgers in town. One is called the Mossad, named after the Israeli CIA, the Mossad. So I want to show you my favorite burger in town. It's located over there. So this is one of them. Very, very, very good burger, and I highly recommend. Before I continue to the next station, the next stop of the tour, any questions? So meanwhile, while we're walking down the street, you can take an impression of how the city is, running. In Hebrew, we say that Tel Aviv is a non-stop city, or the city that never sleeps. So many people biking, scootering, walking, and having fun down the streets. And I feel that Tel Aviv, it's really a great city, a vibrant city, a cosmopolitan city, and a 24/7 24/6, not 7, 24/6 city. You know, most restaurants and stores are open on Shabbat, but some of them do not. So it really depends. This is a very good coffee shop which is open 24/7. But most restaurants, I guess, in Tel Aviv open either 12/7 or 12/6. You know that cars are very expensive in Israel, 3 times more than the States. So motorcycles are very popular here in Israel, especially in Tel Aviv. Now I want to show you another great burger, my favorite in town, called Vitrina. Vitrina means glass in Hebrew. And as you can see, their restaurant is very transparent. Now you can see everything, so that's why it's called Vitrina. So here it is.
Shay, we have a question about your favorite burger. Are you
Yeah.
ready?
Yeah, I'm
How-
getting hungry.
I
Watch
know.
out.
I think we
I'll have
all
to
are.
stop.
This vegetarian really wants to come to be exactly where you are. But the question is, how much would your favorite burger cost in US dollars?
Oh, that's a simple question. Thank you for asking it. I think it's a great question. So it costs 60 shekels and it's $20 exactly.
That's a pricey burger. Is there a little gold on top?
No, but that's the average price in Israel. That's why this country is so expensive. Speaking of pricey burgers, oh, somebody's, speaking of crazy Israeli drivers, somebody here is either late or hungry. Anyway, let's cross the street. I'll show you a McDonald's restaurant in Tel Aviv. You pay for a McDonald's burger in Israel, I guess 4 times more than the price you pay in the US. For instance, a kids menu meal of French fries and 5 chicken McNuggets. Now, really, I'm starving now, but it costs in Israel. It costs 30 shekels, which is $10. So I guess it's 3 or 4 times more than in the States. So as you know, McDonald's has made aliyah. McDonald's has made aliyah since the early 90s, and since then it's a great success in Israel. Probably the strongest American food brand in Israel. Speaking about food brands, this is Aroma. This is the Starbucks of Israel. I'm not a big fan of them, but this is the Israeli Starbucks. Now I'm taking you to 2 final spots before we conclude the tour. So I do have a 2-minute walk, so this is a great chance to ask some questions or make comments or reflect your memories from Tel Aviv before we conclude.
Shy,
Yeah.
have there been many Arabs from Bahrain and Oman or other Sunni countries that have been coming to Israel after the Abraham Accords?
Yeah, actually, I'm studying at IDC University in Israel, and we're very excited to have the first ever Emirati students on our campus. So this is a big thing. The thing is that all the normalization agreements between Israel and its neighbors occurred during COVID. So as far as I know, most Emirati and Bahrainian citizens are not allowed to enter Israel unless they have a visa because of COVID and a permission. So it will take time before we see tourism and visitors like on normal days. Any more questions? I saw two comments.
One
the
person
chat.
wants to know about Ben and Jerry's in Israel, if places in Israel are selling Ben and Jerry's.
Oh, that's my favorite topic. Just kidding. Well, first of all, let me tell you that I think, from my perspective, we should keep ice cream out of politics. And the Ben and Jerry's decision to stop selling and working with the Israeli Ben and Jerry manufacturer is very stupid because it hurts the Palestinians themselves, because they will not be able to enjoy Ben and Jerry's products as well as Israelis. So I feel very frustrated about that decision, because I think that we should keep politics out of food, and especially ice cream, which is a thing that we all like and enjoy. Anyway, as of now, Ben and Jerry is still sold in Israel because the contractor, the Israeli producer of Ben and Jerry's, is still has 18 months in his contract, so it will take 18 months to stop selling Ben and Jerry's. And the thing is that many Israelis now consume Ben and Jerry's because they want to strengthen the Israeli contractor, because he had a choice. He could have chosen, to agree to their demand to stop selling products on the West Bank, but he refused that, and he said, ice cream should remain out of politics, and he refused, to follow their decision, and then it all happened. So for the upcoming 18 months, we won't have a lack of Ben and Jerry's, but later we will have to bring this some from the US. So I want to show you. Here are another 3 different embassies of Bulgaria, Romania, and Moldova. As I said, Tel Aviv is a hub for embassies. And now I'm taking you to one of my favorite spots in downtown Tel Aviv. Before I do that, I want to show you the headquarters of the IDF. This complex called Hakiria is the headquarters of the IDF, and is where the general staff is located, and it's a very strategic spot in Tel Aviv and in Israel in general. So this is Hakiria, the headquarters, the buildings the twin buildings that I'm pointing out are the headquarters of the Air Force, or the commandment of the Air Force. And this facility hosts all the headquarters of the Navy, the Air Force, and the Israeli Army. So it's a very strategic and important location. Another interesting thing about the Kiryat, about the headquarters, is that since the 50s, many Israeli leaders fought to relocate this complex to Jerusalem, but it's too expensive, and it's really a headache to do that. So it probably in the near future will stay in Tel Aviv. There are some plans to sell all this land in downtown Tel Aviv, which worth billions of US dollars, but at least for now, it's going to stay as is. Let me give you another spot of that. Don't tell the IDF or the Mossad. So as you can see, this building is the headquarters of the IDF. So I would like to take you to my favorite spot in Tel Aviv, which is Hakameli Theater. Tel Aviv has many great theaters, and in general, art scene and theater scene in Tel Aviv is great. There are 3 major theaters in Tel Aviv. The most famous is Habima Theater, the National Theater. There is Bet Lessin, and there is Hakameli. This is my favorite one. Since theaters were opened in early June, I've been to 5 different plays. I really like comedy, and this is a great theater which features all the great names in Israel. And I really like and enjoy coming here. By the way, the Hakameli Theater won the Israel Prize for Art. So it's an awarded theater, and it's considered one of the best in Israel. So this is the theater. By the way, speaking of price matching between Israel and America, normal show ticket cost 200 shekels, which is approximately, let's think, $65, $70. But because of the reopening, they have great sales, so you can purchase theater ticket at theater seats for less than $20. So it's a great time to take advantage of that, and that's why I'm very cultural recently and attend many theater plays, and I think it's great. So let me give you another angle of the building. And this is one of the most beautiful buildings in the city of Tel Aviv, a very special one. It's the Tel Aviv Museum of Art. This is their newest building, which was opened in 2012, 9 years ago. It's a very special building. Look at the windows, the shape. So this is considered the best museum in Tel Aviv, and the second most well-known museum in Israel, after the Israel Museum in Jerusalem. And this is a great place. Actually, I'm planning to visit a very special exhibit this Friday here at the museum. Unfortunately, unlike Washington, D.C., the museum is not free of charge. You pay 40 shekels, which is $13. But look, this building is very special. I wish I could enter. As you can imagine, it's closed. It's almost 8 p.m. here. So this building inside is even more impressive. So this is one of the most beautiful buildings in Tel Aviv. So, because I really enjoy this session and this tour, I'll give you 2 more spots on the house. So we'll now go for 2 final spots before we conclude the tour. So the first spot is the garden of the museum. As you can see, this is a very fancy restaurant called Pastel. It's a chef restaurant. It does not have a Michelin star, but it's really fancy. You could sit here and have a great time here at the museum. And it's a very nice and fancy restaurant. And this is the museum garden that contains a lot of, it features a lot of sculptures, and there is a great cafe over there. And we're now crossing the garden, and this is the original and the old building of the Tel Aviv Art Museum, which was opened in the early 50s. It has many interesting pieces of classic painters like Van Gogh, Picasso, Monet, and others. So it's a very nice museum. By the way, the Tel Aviv Art Museum empowers young Israeli artists and tries, to promote them. I have a relative who had an exhibit here recently, who is very talented, and he teaches at Yale University in Connecticut, and he has some exhibits here at the Tel Aviv Art Museum. So before we conclude, and before I show you the last spot of today's tour, let me take some final questions and comments. Any questions, guys?
I don't have anything in the chat, but if anybody has one, feel free to unmute yourself. And Shy, we just lost your video again.
Sorry, I was texting my friends because, I got hungry and I decided, to be spontaneous. And I just texted my friends, come, we're having a vitrina burger in 20 minutes. So I decided that, I'm not surviving this tour without a burger. So I'm going to have a good burger. I haven't eaten there for a few months, for I guess 2 or 3 months. So I think it's time for reunion. So any questions or comments or reflections from your visit to Tel Aviv before I show you the final spot of this tour? All right, so this is one of the most beautiful libraries in Israel called Charcion, Gate of Zion, Bet Ariela. So this is Gate of Zion library, which was renovated recently. I haven't been inside for years. I think it's a good time, to visit. Unfortunately, it's closed, but it was renovated. You can see that it's very modern and lighted, so it's beautiful. In front of me is the state court of the Tel Aviv district. And you can see how many skyscrapers. Look how many skyscrapers. Tel Aviv has many tall buildings. And, I think it's amazing that in the last decades, Tel Aviv has massively developed many skyscrapers, tall buildings, both for residents and offices. And, I think that it's great, both in terms of lack of ground and housing, and both in terms of skyline. Tel Aviv is a modern city. And I enjoy from the fact that there are so many skyscrapers, different architectural styles. For instance, the building there, not the lighted one belongs to the military, but the one behind is the tallest building in Israel. And it has a very beautiful shape. This is the headquarters of the military, of the IDF. And behind that, you can see Azrieli Center, which is one of the symbols of Tel Aviv. About 3 different skyscrapers, one square, one circle, and one triangle, very well known and famous in Israel. And we're now facing north this is the entrance of the museum. Look how beautiful this entrance is with this sculpture. So, comparing to the Rabin Square, look how small this square is. It's not, I would say, third or 25%, quarter of the size of the Rabin Square. But it's still a beautiful square featuring many sculptures. And, I think it's one of the most cultural spots in Tel Aviv, giving to the fact that it hosts the museum, the library, the theater, and the opera building. So it was a great time and a great experience to welcome you to my hometown and to walk with you virtually in the city of Tel Aviv, where I grew up, to show you my the house, the building when I grew up, and to answer your questions and to talk about the fact that Tel Aviv is a very political city, very vibrant and diverse, and also very modern city, which empowers culture. So I want to thank you all and wish you all Shana Tova and sweet and healthy New Year. I look forward to seeing you all on September 14th. We're going to focus on the recent outbreak of the Delta variant in Israel, as well as the vaccination, the booster vaccination operation. I'll keep you posted after I get the shots. And I want to thank you again and thank you for being here and supporting Israel Café for the 4th year in a row under my leadership. So thank you very much, guys. I also want to thank Shona for the technical support and wish you all Happy New Year, Shana Tova. Thank you.
Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.
Thank you, Shai. Shana
Yes.
Tova.
Enjoy your
your
burger now.
Thank you.
Okay, bon appetit.
Next time, thank you, Toda. Next time, next year in Tel Aviv, right? Shana Haba in Tel Aviv. So when you all come to and visit me, I'll take you to Vitrina. I'll take you to a good play. We'll try to make it in English. And meanwhile, Shana Tova, and thank you all. Be well.
Shana Tova, Shai. Take care.
Shana Tova.